Rubeshwaran.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, give answers on factors, no?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, factors concentration,
Okay.
quantum yield of fluorescence,
Okay.
absorption, oxygen, pH,
Yeah.
intensity of incident light,
Mm.
ma'am. Quenchers,
Okay.
conjugation, mm, photo decomposition, temperature and viscosity, ma'am.
Okay. Got it. So we have seen only factors and what is the meaning of quenching we have seen. Now let's see about the types of thank you Rubishwaran. Now let's see about various types of quenching
Thank you, ma'am.
processes and remaining parts of fluorimetry. Okay. And till fluorimetry, it will be included in your second sessional portions. Already we have discussed regarding second sessional portions in the previous class, right? So up to fluorimetry, I'm including in your second sessional exam. So kindly get prepared on your exams. After this class, I'll be giving you an assignment and a class test in the coming classes. So you need to get prepared for a class test. So it will be easy for appearing your sessional exam. Okay. Okay, now let's move on to the fluorimetric analysis of remaining parts. We'll discuss in brief. As we have discussed already, the contents included are under fluorimetric analysis, theory of fluorimetric analysis, what is luminescence and what are the types of luminescence and what are the factors affecting fluorescence intensity. Then quenching process, here we will be discussing definition and different types of quenching with examples. Then instrumentation, types of instrumentation and its working mechanism will be discussed under instrumentation. Then applications of fluorimetry in various fields. Then fluorescence indicators, what is the application of fluorescent indicators and what are examples of fluorescence indicators. Then including study of some pharmaceutically important compounds estimated by fluorimetric analysis, that is example of substances analyzed by pharmaceutical drug products analyzed by fluorimetric analysis. So these are all the contents for fluorimetric analysis. Under fluorimetric analysis, what you are learning. Then theory, we have discussed what is fluorescence and fluorescence spectroscopy. Then about Jablonski diagram for electronic transitions between a ground state and excited state and ground state. Then luminescence, what is luminescence and types of luminescence, and about photoluminescence. Then factors affecting fluorescence, we have seen nearly 12 factors in that concentration, then absorption, oxygen, pH, quenches, scatter, and nature of substrate group, photo decomposition, and temperature. These factors will decrease fluorescence intensity when comparing with other factors. And the basically fluorescence intensity is depending upon intrinsic structure and an environment of a molecule. Hope you have understood what is the intrinsic structure represents, the nature of substituent groups and conjugation present. And environment of the molecule represents concentration, quantum yield, intensity, absorption, oxygen, pH. These all other factors will cover the environment of a molecule where it exists. Then we have seen concentration, how the concentration factor affects the fluorescence intensity at low concentration and high concentration. Then quantum yield is proportional to emitted number of photons to the absorbed number of photons. And it is always less than 1. Since emitted number of photons will be less comparing with absorbed number of photons, since there is a loss of photon occurs due to collisional deactivation, intersystem crossing, and vibrational relaxation. Then intensity of incident light. Incident light will increase the fluorescence intensity. Then adsorption definitely will decrease the fluorescence intensity. Oxygen also decreases since it converts fluorescent compound to non-fluorescent compound. And then pH, it depends on the dissociated and undissociated form. At what pH range the molecule exists to fluorescence. If it is acidic, we have to use acidic solution. If it is an alkaline condition, we have to use alkali solution for analyzing the fluorescence of particular substance. So pH is the main factor, decides the fluorescence intensity. And then temperature decreases fluorescence intensity on increasing the temperature. Then viscosity, it is directly proportional. Photo decomposition, indirectly proportional. Quenches, indirectly proportional to the intensity. Then scatters also in the same way, where conjugation is directly proportional to fluorescence intensity. Conjugation increases, then fluorescence intensity increases. Concentration represents unsaturation system. If it is more aromaticity or more rings, if it is present aromatic ring in the molecule, then definitely fluorescence intensity will be increased. So more than one conjugation system, if a molecule exists, then it will be able to give fluorescence. If only one conjugated system or one unsaturated system is present in the molecule, it can only absorb the radiation. So that can be analyzed by absorption spectroscopy. To emit the radiation by the molecule, we require more conjugated system in the molecule. That means increased conjugation will increase the fluorescence intensity, and it will convert the non-fluorescent molecule to fluorescent molecule. And the nature of substituent groups, electron donating groups, as mentioned here, will increase the fluorescence intensity, and electron withdrawing groups will decrease the fluorescence intensity. And then now we'll see about quenching process. What is quenching? Decrease in fluorescence intensity. Decrease in fluorescence intensity is called as quenching. Already we have seen many factors which are quenching the fluorescence intensity, right? It causes quenching process. What are the general mechanisms? This also we have seen. It includes excited state reactions like vibrational loss, collisional deactivation, whatever we have seen the factors under Jablonski diagram. While discussing that, we have seen excited state reactions, right? So the same will affect the fluorescence intensity. Then energy transfer between two molecules. Neighboring molecule, the excited molecule will be emitting the radiation. That emitted radiation will be absorbed by neighboring molecule. So that is called energy transfer. Thereby it causes quenching. Then complex formation with another molecule also quenches the fluorescence intensity. Then collisional quenching due to collision process. So these are all the various mechanisms involved in quenching process: excited state reactions, energy transfer, complex formation, and collisional process. Okay, excited state reactions include vibrational energy loss, collisional deactivation, and heat transfer. This all. Then energy transfer represents the energy of emitted radiation will be absorbed by another molecule, thereby loss of emitted light, fluorescence occurs. Then complex formation is a fluorescent molecule will be getting complex with another non-fluorescent molecule, so it becomes non-fluorescent itself, so that quenching occurs. Then collisional, when increasing temperature, this all, when concentration increases, collision takes place, thereby fluorescence intensity is decreased. And here are some examples. We'll be seeing that with different types of quenching. There are 4 kind of quenching occurs. One is collisional quenching, static quenching, chemical quenching, and concentration quenching. Where we have seen concentration quenching under factors itself, chemical quenching also. pH, oxygen, halides, electron withdrawing groups, this all comes under chemical quenching. This already we have seen under factors. The same examples and types you can include here, both under concentration and chemical quenching. We have not discussed collisional and static quenching, so let's discuss now about collisional and static quenching. Okay, concentration quenching as the under factors affecting fluorescence intensity we have seen. So kindly write the information what we have discussed under concentration quenching. Okay, then chemical quenching, you include the parameters what we have seen under factors like pH, oxygen, halides, electron withdrawing groups here. Okay. And now we'll see about collisional quenching. Collisional quenching occurs when the excited fluorophore, that means at the excited state, fluorophore experiences contact with an atom or a molecule. It experiences contact with an atom or a molecule that can facilitate non-radiative transitions. Transitions. Non-radiative means it is not emitted as a photon. Not as a photon, but it will be relaxed to the ground state. That is due to the collision between the molecule, any atom or molecule. Fluorescent compound will be colliding with any atom or molecule at the excited state, causes no fluorescence compound or no fluorescence intensity or no be there. Instead of that, non-radiative transition will occur from excited state to ground state. So quencher is nothing but here any atom or a molecule at excited state. If it is present, it will be colliding with the fluorophore, thereby it converts a fluorescent compound to non-fluorescent compound. That means no fluorescence is emitted, non-radiative relaxation process occurs to come to ground state. So this type of quenching is called collisional quenching, where this collision takes place at excited state, okay, by means of fluorescent compound with any atom or molecule. This causes non-radiative transitions to the ground state, okay. Common quenchers like in excited state include our oxygen, iodide halide, then cesium, then acrylamide. So these are common quenchers involved in collisional quenching, okay. And halide, it included in chemical quenching also, halide and oxygen. So they same will be quenching the fluorescence intensity by means of collision process only, okay. And this is the schematic representation for collisional quenching. So at excited state, molecule returns to ground state via emission of photons. This is the actual process, okay. From the ground state, through a radiative process, it goes to excited state and it emits the photon. You think that this is the fluorophore. An excited state molecule collides with quencher molecule. So at excited state, the molecule quenches with the quencher molecule, like oxygen, iodide or acrylamide, whatever we have seen. Examples, if it collides, then it is returning to the ground state non-radiatively. It is not emitting the photon as fluorescence, but it is coming to the ground state by means of non-radiative process, okay. And this is called collisional quenching. So there is a decrease in fluorescence intensity or no fluorescence occurs, okay. This is due to collision at excited state. And it is explained with Stern-Volmer equation. This equation is explaining about F0 divided by F equal to 1 plus KSV concentration of Q. What is F0 and F means? Fluorescence intensity, intensities of fluorescence intensities observed in the absence and presence of quencher. That means in absence of quencher, what is the fluorescence intensity? In presence of quencher, what is the fluorescence intensity is measured. That is the factor here to be substituted, okay. And Q represents concentration of quencher. How much concentration is added? Quencher is added, like iodide or oxygen, whatever you are adding, how much concentration is added. Then KSV is nothing but the quenching constant. Stern-Volmer, SV represents Stern-Volmer quenching constant. K usually will be equilibrium constant or some reaction constant. Here it is a quenching constant. It was defined by Stern-Volmer, so it is called as Stern-Volmer quenching constant, okay. Listening, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So collisional quenching can be described with Stern-Volmer equation, and you can see the reaction of quencher and fluorescent compound in a plot that is called as Stern-Volmer plot. Using that equation, we'll be deriving the readings for F0 and F, that is taken in y-axis, and concentration of quencher, that is here example of iodide is taken. So concentration of iodide is taken in x-axis, that is Q. So we will be getting, when you plot a straight line, a slope that is equal to KSV. KSV is what? Stern-Volmer constant. Quenching constant. It gives a linear line. That means quenching is increasing with concentration of iodide ion. Quenching is given by the factor F0 by F. F0 is percentage fluorescence intensity in absence of quencher. At zero concentration of quencher, like iodide. Where F represents after adding iodide, what is the fluorescence intensity? That is the range here. So according to various concentration of quencher, we'll be getting different readings where it increases the quenching process when increased with the concentration. So that is what given with the Stern-Volmer plot. This is Stern-Volmer equation from which we can derive the plot, that is Stern-Volmer plot. It is applicable for explaining collisional deactivation, collisional quenching process. Okay. And now let's see about static quenching, that is second type of quenching. Now we have seen collisional quenching. It occurs at excited state only, where fluorescent compound will collide with the non-fluorescent or any atom or molecule, that is a quencher. It will be colliding with that, so that instead of giving photons, it will be giving non-radiative process, or it will undergo non-radiative transition to come to the ground state. Examples are oxygen, iodide, cesium, and then acrylamide. And it is explained with this schematic representation, where an absence of quencher, the molecule, fluorescent molecule, emits a photon. In presence of quencher, so due to the collisional quenching process, it is not emitting the photon. So decrease in fluorescence intensity is found, and it is explained with Stern-Volmer equation and Stern-Volmer plot, where we can find linear line since it increases the quenching process. That means it decreases with the fluorescence intensity. Now let's move on to the static quenching. Here the fluorophore is fluorescent compound, fluorescence generating compound, forms a stable complex with another molecule. Fluorophore forms stable complex with another molecule, okay, not atom here, another molecule in the ground state, where it forms complex in the ground state. This is the difference in collisional quenching and static quenching. In collisional quenching, where the complex formation occurs, where the interaction occurs at excited state. Note down here, it is excited state, where in static quenching, the complex formation occurs in ground state and it becomes non-fluorescent. So fluorescent compound may form stable complex with another molecule. So it will be converted from fluorescent compound to non-fluorescent compound, where it is taking place at the ground state of fluorophore. Okay, and it is called static quenching. And in such a case, the dependence of the fluorescence as a function of the quencher concentration follows the relation. It is also given with Stern-Volmer equation, that is F0 divided by F equal to 1 plus Ka into concentration of quencher. Ka is association constant of the complex. It is representing association constant of the complex. A represents association constant, that is the complex formation between fluorophore and another molecule, okay, that converts it into non-fluorescent compound. Such cases quenching via complex formation, and it was described by Gregorio Weber. Okay, so this constant may be called as Gregorio-Weber constant. It is not Stern-Volmer constant. You can call it as Gregorio-Weber constant, and it is otherwise called as association constant. Where Ksv was explained with the collisional quenching, Ka was explained with static quenching. So static quenching occurs at ground state, where collisional quenching occurs at excited state. So this is the schematic representation of static quenching, where ground state fluorophore molecules will exist free with fluorescent molecule. When non-fluorescent quencher is colliding or getting complex with the fluorescent molecule, it will be converted to non-fluorescent molecule. The complex is non-fluorescent, the free molecule is fluorescent molecule. So the aromatic ring represents conjugated system present in the molecule, so that it becomes becomes fluorescent compound. When it is attached with another molecule, there is a contribution of double bonds to the formation of complex with the other molecule, so that it becomes non-fluorescent. So this is called static quenching. So with this, types of quenching gets over. How many types of quenching we have seen? 4 types in that collisional quenching and static quenching. Now we have seen in the factors like concentration and chemical quenching. Kindly include the information and others, whatever we have seen under factors. Okay, how affects oxygen, pH, electron withdrawing groups, all other factors whichever decreasing the fluorescence intensity can be included under quenching process also. Okay, along with collisional and static quenching. Next, we'll move on to the instrumentation part of fluorimetry. Instrumentation part. Till now, we have seen all theories only. Let's see what all we have covered. We have covered theory, luminescence, factors, and quenching. This all covers theories behind fluorimetric analysis. Now let's move on to the actual process of fluorimetric analysis, that is instrumentation and its mechanism. Okay. Let's see the types of instrumentation, like in UV visible spectrophotometry. Also, we have seen some types of instrumentation. Similarly, you can find different types of fluorimeters also. So let's see the classification of fluorimetric instrumentation. Instrumentation of fluorimetry is divided into filter fluorimeter and spectrofluorimeter, where filter fluorimeter is of low cost instrument, where expensive instruments or sophisticated instruments are spectrofluorimeters. Through filter fluorimeter, we will not get any spectrum. With spectrofluorimeter, we can derive the spectrum, and it will be operated with the software. Okay, fluorimetric software, spectrofluorimeter, where filter fluorimeter functions like normal digital fluorometers. And filter fluorimeter is of 2 types, single beam and double beam, where spectrofluorimeter is of only 1 type, single beam. Only single beam spectrofluorimeters are available, where filter fluorimeters are of 2 types. Markedly available spectrofluorimeter I am speaking, that is single beam, where double beam instruments are, filter fluorimeters are both beams of instruments are used, single beam and double beam. Hope you know what is single beam and double beam. This already we have seen at a UV visible also. Single beam will be having single sample compartment and single intensity of radiation is passed at a time for analysis, where in double beam instruments more than 1 intensity of radiation simultaneously passed to the sample compartment, where sample compartment will be having more than 1 sample cell will be used at a time for analysis. And there we can compare the sample with blank or standard. So that is the application of double beam. Now let's see the schematic representation of single beam filter fluorimeter. Single beam filter fluorimeter. Here you can find the source. Source is passed to the filter, then to the sample cell. Filter, then to the sample cell, and this is the direction of UV analysis, and here is the direction of fluorimetric analysis, that is at 90-degree angle the analysis is taking place in a fluorimetric method. So we use 2 filters here. One is before sample cell, another one is after sample cell. 2 filters are used, and the first filter is called as primary filter and the second filter is called as secondary filter. Why it is measured at 90-degree means transmitted light is measured in UV visible. We are measuring emitted light. Emission will be occurring in a 90-degree angle, or we can keep it at 45 and 60-degree angles also for its measurement, where 180-degree angle, if the radiation is passed, that will be transmitted light from the sample, where this one will be emitted light. So at 90-degree angle, the analysis is taking place in fluorimetric method. Okay, and what type of lamp is used for excitation means mercury vapor lamp in filter fluorimeter. Okay, in filter fluorimeter, these 2 parts only are varying when compared with another spectrofluorimeters. What are the parts will be varying with filter fluorimeter and spectrofluorimeter means lamp, filters, and then cuvettes also. Cuvettes, here cylindrical cuvettes we will use like as mentioned here, and in spectrofluorimeter cuvettes, rectangular cuvettes as we have seen under UV visible. The similar type of rectangular cuvettes will be used, but not quartz cuvettes. Will be using the plain cuvettes only. Glass made cuvettes on 4 surfaces will be made with transparent glass only. And then secondary filter, then detectors. For filter fluorimeter, it is the phototubes and photovoltaic cells. When it is coming to the spectrofluorimeter, it is of higher versions like photomultiplier tubes, photodiode arrays, this all. Okay. So what actual processes from mercury vapor lamp, the radiation required for excitation is passed through the primary filter. Okay, what is the role of primary filter? This is the primary filter, that is first filter. It is otherwise known as excitation filter. What is the other name for primary filter? Excitation filter. Listening now? I'm starting the working mechanism of fluorimeter. So mercury vapor lamp is the source in filter fluorimeters. It passes the polychromatic light that is passed on to the filter. It is filter type of monochromators are used. 2 kinds of filters are used. One is primary filter, another one is secondary filter. Primary filter is placed before the sample, where secondary filter is placed after the sample. And primary filter is otherwise known as excitation filter. Since the polychromatic light will be converted to monochromatic light, and that is required to be absorbed by the sample to move from ground state to excited state. Just recollect the Jablonski diagram, where electrons absorbing the radiation from the radiation source, and it is converted from ground state to excited state. Okay, so it requires source for moving from ground state to excited state. Since it is called a photoluminescence, we require external sources, photons only. So source from mercury vapor lamp, when electrical energy is passed, that will be converting the mercury to emit the radiation energy. Okay, so source converts electrical energy to radiation energy. That radiation energy required for excitation of the sample. So where it is passed in primary filter, it will be passed. So what is the role of primary filter? It is otherwise known as excitation filter, where it removes all emission radiations, all other radiations, unwanted radiations. That means it filters off visible radiation. Visible radiation is longer wavelength radiation that is going to be emitted by the sample, where UV radiation is the colorless radiation, where it will be used for absorption or excitation. So definitely primary filter will remove visible radiation coming from the source, and it passes only UV radiation. Hope you have understood. And this will be UV radiation from the range of 200 to 400 nanometer will be used to excite the molecule from ground state to excited state. That means higher energy radiations are derived from source, and higher energy radiations that is passed to the sample to move from ground state to excited state. Electrons will be moving from ground state to excited state. Electrons, where it is present, the valence electrons are present in the molecule. After going to excited state, what happens in the excited state? Some vibrational energy loss occurs, and then lower energy of radiation is emitted. This emitted radiation, what happens? Passed on to the secondary filter, where secondary filter filters off if any UV radiation comes. Only it passes the visible radiation. Visible radiation is what? Characteristic radiation that is emitted by the sample present in the sample cell. It is not from the source. It is the emitted radiation is only from the sample cell. Where in UV visible method will be analyzing transmitted light, that is at 180 degree. It is from source only the radiation comes. From the source whatever radiation comes, the transmitted light is measured in UV. Where in fluorimetry the light is emitted by the sample is analyzed. That is the difference between UV and Fluory. Okay, in fluorimetry at 90-degree angle, the measurement is done where the sample is emitting the radiation. Where in UV visible spectroscopy, 180-degree angle transmitted light is measured, and the transmitted light is coming from the source only. Intensity of transmitted light that is decreasing when absorbing species is increased according to the Beer-Lambert's law. We have seen that, right? So this is the radiation coming from the source, and it is decreased due to the absorbing species present in it. Where emitted radiation is depending on the fluorophores present in the sample. And after the emission, radiation is filtered by a secondary filter. It is passed to the detector. So in filter fluorimeter, what type of detectors you will find? Photovoltaic cells, phototubes, likewise. And you will get in the display whatever percentage fluorescence intensity emitted by the sample, full molecule. Okay. That is the concept behind single beam filter fluorimeter. So what are the parts we are using? Source, primary filter, sample cell, secondary filter, detector, and output device. It is in 90 degrees. You have to draw schematic representation like this only. Not like UV visible spectrophotometer. That is like 180 degree horizontal way you need to draw the diagram. Here you need to draw like a vertical way. Emitted light is measured in vertical way. Okay. Secondary filter is known as emission filter. Primary filter is known as excitation filter. Excitation filter, emission filter. Here you can see how the cuvette is placed. And this is the direction of UV visible measurement, and this is the direction of fluorimetric measurement. Okay. And cuvette used here is cylindrical shaped cuvette, glass cuvette is used for filter fluorimeter. And coming to the double beam, here you can see the equal intensity of mercury vapor lamp is producing the intensity of radiation, and one goes to the sample compartment and another one goes to the blank cuvette. Blank will not be having sample, where sample will be having some concentration of fluorophore. Okay. But the equal intensity from the source is split and it is passed to the sample and blank, where it is crossing the primary filters. We have two primary filters in double beam filter fluorimeter. So source of two lamps are used to give simultaneously equal intensity of two beams, so that it is called double beam, and it is passed to the primary filters. So each side, each sample compartment before it has primary filters. So two primary filters are there. Unlike single beam filter fluorimeter, here only one primary filter is there, only single source is used. Here two sources of same mercury vapor lamp is used with the equal intensity. So two primary filters are used, and it is going to the sample. One intensity of radiation is goes into the sample cuvette and another goes to the blank cuvette. Okay. And now emitted radiation is passed to the secondary filter. At the secondary filter, only emitted radiation is filtered, where UV radiations, if it is coming, then that will be cancelled and it is going to the photomultiplier tube detectors. Detector will be photomultiplier tubes. This is double beam filter fluorimeter. And readout device, we can get the percentage fluorescence intensity as display. This is the schematic representation for double beam filter fluorimeter. Now let's see about single beam spectrofluorimeter. So we have seen under the instrumentation of fluorimetry, filter fluorimeter and spectrofluorimeter. In that we have discussed single beam filter fluorimeter and double beam filter fluorimeter. Now let's see about single beam spectrofluorimeter. Here source, everything is same, only we'll be using some expensive sources and expensive parts of the instruments in order to increase the sensitivity and specificity of the analysis, in order to increase the accuracy also, for better quantitative measurements we'll be going with single beam spectrofluorimeter. Like double beam UV visible spectrophotometer we have discussed now, in the same way spectrofluorimeters are used. Here the light source will be of xenon arc lamp, where in filter fluorimeters what is the source? Mercury vapor lamp. This is the difference here. Xenon arc lamp is used in spectrofluorimeter. And the source is giving polychromatic light, and it is passed on to the grating monochromator. This all we have seen under UV visible itself. The same diffraction gratings are used just to go through the UV visible spectroscopy for different types of monochromators. And here diffraction gratings are used as monochromator. Since it is a sophisticated instrument, it will be made with diffraction gratings. It functions, its mechanism is based on diffraction of radiation from the incident light. It is converted or splitted into individual wavelengths. And for this monochromator is used for excitation purpose. It takes only excitation, radiation required for excitation of sample, that called as lambda excitation. Okay, this exit slit only sends the radiation required for excitation, that is maximum radiation from among all monochromatic lights. Only the required radiation for excitation is selected by exit slit. Whatever you are giving, like 350 nanometer, if you give, it selects only 350 nanometer radiation, that is blue radiation here you can find. So that goes to the sample cell for making the samples, fluorophores present in the sample cell to get excited from ground state to excited state. Just recall the theory what we have discussed under Jablonski diagram. Okay, for that we require maximum lambda max excitation, lambda is required, that is excitation wavelength is required, that is derived by diffraction grating process. Okay, the grating in the excitation monochromator is rotated to scan the excitation wavelength during the acquisition of an excitation spectrum, and this alone we can get the spectrum in spectrofluorimeter. We can make emission monochromator off, and we can switch on this only excitation monochromator, where we can get the spectrum as excitation spectrum. That the same spectrum what you are getting from UV visible spectroscopy. Here also we can get the same spectrum at the fixed lambda excitation. This is like UV visible analysis. Once after going all the molecules getting excited, fluorophores excited, then it will come to ground state by emission of radiation. This emitted radiation again passed on to the emission monochromator, that is also diffraction grating only. This is secondary monochromator, this is primary monochromator. Primary is excitation monochromator, secondary is emission monochromator, and it is again passed to the exit slit. So maximum emission is fixed as lambda emission for the particular sample, and it is fixed and it's passed to the detector. Okay, so we can get the excitation spectrum also. Either you can keep lambda emission as constant, and you can find out lambda excitation. Once you know lambda excitation for the sample, we can find out lambda emission. So this is widely used fluorimeter to get excitation and emission spectrum for a fluorophore. Okay, any pharmaceutical substance is able to give fluorescence that can be analyzed accurately with single beam spectrofluorimeter. Okay, got it? This is regarding instrumentation. Is there any doubt in this? Can you give answers? What is the source used in filter fluorimeter and spectrofluorimeter? Give the answers.
Mercury vapor lamp and xenon arc lamp.
Arc lamp. Okay. What is the difference between primary filter, filters and monochromators?
Primary filter and secondary filter.
What is the other name for primary and secondary filters and monochromators?
Excitation filter and emission filter, ma'am, or primary and secondary.
Yeah. What is the role of primary filter or primary monochromator? What type of radiation it will select? What type of monochromatic light it will take? What is the mechanism of primary filter and secondary filter?
Primary filter for UV visible.
Yeah, it selects only UV radiation. That means radiation required for excitation. Where emission filter will take only emitted radiation. It removes excited radiations or UV region. It will remove only. It selects the visible radiation. Longer energy is a longer wavelength radiation. Lower energy radiation. Here, can you compare the energy levels? From the source, higher energy radiation comes. That is only UV region. UV region is having higher energy comparing with visible range, right? UV range is higher energy. It is having higher energy and lower wavelength, where visible region has higher means longer wavelength and lower energy. So at excitation monochromator, it selects higher energy radiation. So wavelength will be low here, where emitted light will be having longer wavelength and lower energy. How it is having lower energy? Some energy has been lost for the molecule at excited state. That is the concept. Okay, why it is converted from lower to higher energy. And this kind of fluorescence, varying with the lambda max absorption and emission lambda max, it is called as Stokes fluorescence. Okay, it is a type of fluorescence called Stokes fluorescence. Stokes spelling I'll type in the chat box. Stokes fluorescence, it is called Stokes fluorescence, where excited wavelength will be lower than emitted wavelength. When you compare lambda, it will be less in excitation and high in emission. Okay, that type of fluorescence is called Stokes fluorescence. If emission wavelength is low when comparing with excitation, then that is called anti-Stokes fluorescence. And the fluorimetric principle follows Stokes fluorescence only. Okay, this is another parameter. I think mostly about instrumentation and its mechanism we have seen. And now let's move on to applications. Fluorimetry is applicable in various fields like inorganic substances, analyzing inorganic, organic substances. Okay, it is applicable to analyze organic substances and other pharmaceuticals. In pharmaceutical analysis, it is widely used for fluorimetric method development and all. And fluorescence indicators are used to convert non-fluorescent molecule to fluorescent molecule to analyze better by fluorimetry. Okay, major fields of applications are, it can be fluorimetric can be used to analyze inorganic substances like ruthenium. Here you can see ruthenium ions, aluminium in alloys, then boron, steel, and then cadmium. These are all inorganic substances. With example, you can analyze by fluorimetry. Okay, you can quote examples in brief with their lambda excitation and lambda emission for some inorganic substances. If you give a search in Google like fluorimetric analysis of inorganic substances, PDF, if you give articles related to inorganic analysis, you will be getting. So you can quote, you just read the abstract of that article where you can find the lambda excitation and lambda emission for that inorganic element that you can quote here as example. Okay, and this part I'm going to give with an assignment. So you people will be writing with the examples. Okay, you have to focus different fields: inorganic substances and organic substances and pharmaceutical substances. Divide like 3 categories. Okay, applications of fluorimetry for 3 categories of analysis. One is inorganic, one is organic, and another one is pharmaceutical drug substance analysis. For each category, find out solvent system. Which solvent the sample is dissolved. Inorganic means in which solvent it is dissolved. And find out what lambda excitation for each compound, lambda emission for each compound. These 4 parameters are sufficient. Under each category, find 5 examples and submit. Okay, this is assignment for you. Within 2 days, you need to submit. Monday, you have to submit this assignment. Applications on fluorimetry. Okay, applications on fluorimetry for inorganic samples, organic samples, and pharmaceutical drug substances. What are the parameters you will be including? Sample name, either inorganic or organic, and then have to include solvent in which it is dissolved, whether we are using acid or base. Solvent is important. Why? In some drug substance will give fluorescence in acidic pH, some in alkaline pH, so that you have to note down. So solvent is important. Then lambda excitation wavelength and emission wavelength for each compound. Excitation and emission wavelength. This you make as a tabular column. Make as a tabular column, like how you have done assignments for other chromatography and spectroscopy techniques. In the same way, you have to write, make tabular column with the same contents: sample name, solvent, excitation, and emission wavelengths. and submit. For each category, inorganic 5 example, organic 5 example, and for pharmaceuticals 10 examples. Since you have a separate heading also in your syllabus, study of pharmaceutical substances, right? So if you prepare this assignment, it will be useful for writing both applications and examples under this heading. Just wait, let me show the heading. What do you require? That is the last part of your plurimetric method. This one, study of pharmaceutically important compounds estimated by plurimetric analysis. In lab manual itself, you will be analyzing with 2 drug substances. One is riboflavin, one is quinine sulfate. Along with that, you take another 8 examples. Okay, 10 examples you need to quote for this heading as examples. Hope you know you have clear with all the concepts behind plurimetric analysis, so you can write this part. And one more part is left to discuss, that is fluorescent indicators. Fluorescence indicators' role is to convert, when the indicators are used, it will convert non-fluorescent compound to fluorescent compound, and they can be analyzed by plurimetric method. And it is widely used in titrations also, where all indicators are fluorescent dyes only, so that it is combining with the analyte and it will give the color change during the titration. It gives the color change to detect the endpoint in the titration. So fluorescent indicators are playing major role in various titrations, and it is a dye to trace in liquids and stains and dyes for visualizing cells. Okay, even during diagnosis of some diseases, kidney function test, liver function test, to diagnose diseases, will be using fluorescence indicators only. So they will show some color change at where we are finding the disease in through imagings like X-ray, scanning. During scanning and all, fluorescence indicators are used. That's why this is the important topic given under plurimetric analysis. Clinical applications of fluorescence indicators are wide to diagnose the diseases. Okay. And here some examples I have given, like selenium. It converts non-fluorescent to fluorescent compound by means of indicating with the color change. It will be having own color. Okay. For example, 2,3-diamino naphthalene as reagent, selenium will be detected. Okay. It forms complex with this reagent to give to analyze by fluorescent method. Likewise, the thiochrome will be giving color, means it is detected with thiamine hydrochloride. Then acid dye technique, atropine forms a fluorescent chloroform soluble complex with eosin. This is a fluorescent indicator, thiochrome, eosin, and the reagent what I have mentioned here to diamino naphthalene. These are fluorescent indicators, example of fluorescent indicators. Okay. And some indicators I have given in the tabular column, which you can find the same indicators you can find in the net also. I have taken from the net source only. Violet laser diodes, then cascade blue, their absorption maximum and emission maximum is given. Cascade yellow, Pacific blue, argon ion laser, fluorescent, Alexa, then cyanins. These are various fluorochrome. Fluorochrome means fluorescent giving compounds. So they are called as fluorescent indicators. And some more examples here, and they have application in acid-base titration also. Eosin, fluorescein, acridine, alpha-naphthoquinone. Their pH range and color change. Hope you have read various titrations in PIC itself in the first year. So hope you know about the indicators and theories behind indicators also, how it gives color change at various pH range. It will be having its own color, but it will be colorless at some pH, and that is the pH range given here, where it will be showing green color, colorless to green, green to violet, blue to colorless for various dyes respectively. This is about fluorescent indicators. So with this, all the concepts behind plurimetry we have discussed. So with this, I am completing second sessional portions. To complete the syllabus only, I have moved fast to complete the topic. In the next class, we will be discussing about atomic emission and flame emission spectroscopy. Emission spectroscopy at atomic level will be discussed in the forthcoming classes. Is there any doubt in plurimetry? So we have discussed all the concepts behind plurimetry as per your syllabus. Let's move on to in the next class, atomic emission and flame emission. So
Ma'am.
before that, you will be given coaching with class test and assignment for second session.
Excuse me.
Yeah, Jax.
Ma'am, assignment topic once more repeat.
Applications, applications of fluorimetry. Pharmaceutical applications of fluorimetry ne போட்டுக்கோங்க. இல்ல
Okay.
நான் உங்களுக்கு அசைன் பண்ணுவேன். இப்ப கிளாஸ் ரூம்ல I will be assigning, okay, with the title. இப்ப என்ன எழுதணும்ங்கற
Okay.
கண்டென்ட் தான் நான் இங்க கொடுத்திருக்கேன். நீங்க எந்த மாதிரி எழுதணும்ங்கற ஃபார்மேட் தான் கொடுத்திருக்கேன். டைட்டிலோட I will assign now, okay? இப்ப மண்டே நீங்க சப்மிட் பண்ணுங்க. மண்டே டெஸ்ட் ஒன்னு எழுதிறீங்களா? UV விசிபிள்லயும் ஃப்ளூரிலயும் டெஸ்ட் எழுதிறீங்களா? UV visible test எழுதுனீங்களாப்பா? பீர் லாம்பர்ட்ஸ்ல எழுதுனீங்க இல்லையா? சோ நம்ம அட்டாமிக் அப்சார்ப்ஷன்லயும் ஃப்ளூரிமெட்ரிலயும் நான் 2 क्वेश्चन கொடுக்கிறேன். அதுவும் உங்களுக்கு क्वेश्चंस நான் அப்ப டெஸ்ட் அப்ப போடுறேன். மண்டே டெஸ்ட் வெச்சுக்கலாம். மண்டே டெஸ்ட் வெச்சுக்கலாம். டியூஸ்டே லேப் கண்டக்ட் பண்ணிக்கலாம். உங்களுக்கு எப்ப இந்த ஸ்டடி லீவ் சொல்லிருக்காங்க செஷனலுக்கு?
22nd ல இருந்து மேம்.
22nd. அப்ப 21st உனக்கு ஒரு டெஸ்டும் அசைன்மென்ட்டும் நான் கொடுத்துறேன். ஓகேங்களா? அசைன்மென்ட், அப்ளிகேஷன்ஸ், டெஸ்ட், ஃப்ளூரிமெட்ரியும் அட்டாமிக் அப்சார்ப்ஷனும் ரெண்டு படிச்சிட்டு வாங்க. அதோட क्वेश्चंस நான் அப்லோட் பண்ணி வைக்கிறேன். உங்களுக்கு மண்டே வந்து 11 to 12 you will be having class test. And Monday before 4 o'clock you can submit your assignment. Okay? Thank you. Thank you all. Is there any doubt in the topic?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, take care. All of you.